The Galactic Nexus Café floated in the neutral zone between 17 star systems, a glittering station where species from across the cosmos gathered under the banner of uneasy peace. Empress Theraxia, the dragon sovereign of the Crimson Nebula, entered with her daughter Grace at her side. The cafe's patrons, crystalline beings, methane breathers in containment suits, and various bipedal species, instinctively stepped back. The Empress's scales shimmered with an iridescent warning. Her massive wings folded tight against her armored back. Grace walked silently beside her mother, her own scales a softer rose gold still developing. Unlike the Empress, whose very presence commanded fear and respect across 12 sectors, Grace seemed small, vulnerable. She kept her eyes downcast, her hands tucked close to her body. The Dragon Empire was known throughout the galaxy for its military might, its advanced technology forged in the hearts of dying stars, and its absolute unwillingness to negotiate. Theraxia had carved her domain through fire and conquest, and every species knew that crossing a dragon meant extinction. They were apex predators, evolved from beings that had once devoured starships for sport. Yet today, the Empress was not here for conquest. She was here because her daughter had pointed to the station on a star map, her clawed finger trembling with something that might have been hope. They found a table in the corner, designed for larger species. Theraxia ordered through the holographic interface. Nutritional supplements for Grace, something the cafe's database suggested might be compatible with their biology. The Empress herself needed no food. She could sustain herself on radiation alone, but Grace was young, still growing, and needed sustenance that their warships could not always provide. Grace's hands moved suddenly, fingers forming shapes that Theraxia had learned to recognize over the past 3 cycles. It was a language born of necessity. Grace had never spoken, not since her hatching. The medical drones had found nothing wrong with her vocal cords, no biological impediment. She simply chose silence, or perhaps silence had chosen her. In the Dragon Empire, this was seen as weakness. The noble houses whispered that the Empress's daughter was defective, unsuitable for succession. Some had suggested that mercy would be the kindest option, a quiet ending before the shame spread. Theraxia had incinerated 2 of those advisors and exiled the rest. Grace was her daughter, and the Empress would burn the galaxy before she let anyone harm her. But watching Grace's hands move, forming words that only Theraxia partially understood, the Empress felt something she rarely experienced: helplessness. Across the cafe, a human father sat with his son. Ezra had noticed the dragons the moment they entered. Everyone had. His daughter sat beside him, a girl of perhaps 8 standard years with bright eyes and quick hands. She was signing to him, her movements fluid and natural, and Ezra responded in kind. They were having a conversation that needed no sound. Ezra's daughter tugged his sleeve, then signed something while gesturing toward Grace. Ezra followed her gaze and saw the young dragon's hands moving, forming shapes that he recognized immediately. They weren't perfect signs. The clawed fingers created different angles, and the dragon anatomy didn't quite match human hands, but the intent was unmistakable. Grace was signing. Ezra felt his heart skip. He looked at his daughter, who was watching Grace with an intensity he knew well. It was the look of someone who recognized a kindred spirit, someone who lived in a world of hands and expressions rather than voices. He made a decision that most would call suicidal. Standing slowly, Ezra approached the Dragon Empress's table. Every instinct in his human brain screamed at him to run, to hide, to do anything except walk toward a being that could atomize him with a thought. The Empress's eyes, burning like solar flares, fixed on him. Her wings began to unfurl, a threat display that had preceded the annihilation of entire fleets. But Ezra had learned long ago that fear could not be allowed to prevent connection. He stopped at a respectful distance and raised his hands. His fingers moved in universal sign language, the variant that humanity had developed and shared with other species who used similar manual communication. "Hello," he signed. "My daughter noticed your daughter signing. May we greet her?" Theraxia froze. The cafe had gone absolutely silent. Several species were edging toward the exits, expecting the human to be reduced to ash at any moment. Grace's head snapped up. Her golden eyes went wide. She had never seen another being use hands to speak, not outside of her mother's fumbling attempts to understand. Slowly, Grace's hands rose. Hello, she signed back, the gesture clumsy but clear. Ezra's smile was genuine and warm. He signed again. My name is Ezra. My daughter is also silent by choice. She speaks with her hands like you. The Empress watched, her massive form trembling with something that might have been emotion. She had conquered worlds, commanded fleets, negotiated with beings of pure energy, but she had never been able to truly communicate with her own daughter. This human, this fragile, tiny human, was doing what she could not. Grace's hands moved faster now, more confident. I thought I was alone, she signed. Never alone, Ezra signed back. He gestured to his daughter, who waved shyly from their table. There are many who speak without voices. On Earth we have entire communities. Millions of humans who sign. Millions? Grace's signs were almost frantic now. Not broken? Not broken, Ezra confirmed, his signs emphatic. Different. Beautiful. Complete. Theraxia felt something crack inside her armored chest. She had spent 3 cycles trying to fix her daughter, trying to find the flaw that made Grace silent. The greatest medical minds of the Dragon Empire had examined her. Theraxia had threatened, pleaded, and raged, all because she thought her daughter needed to be repaired. This human, this being from a species the dragons had dismissed as weak, as barely worthy of notice, had shown Theraxia the truth in mere moments. Grace wasn't broken. Grace was simply Grace. The Empress's voice, when it came, resonated through the cafe with the power of a collapsing star. But the words were careful, almost gentle. Human, teach me. Teach me to speak with my daughter. Ezra met the Empress's burning gaze without flinching. Then he smiled and signed a single word that would change the course of galactic history. Yes. In the corner of the Galactic Nexus Café, a Dragon Empress learned her first true words, not in the language of conquest or command, but in the silent poetry of hands, and her daughter Grace finally felt seen. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy with weapons or war, but in that moment, with patience and understanding, a human father had conquered something far more precious, the heart of the most powerful being in known space. And it began with a simple sign. Hello.